Time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is a show where we wake up with the Saturday morning sun, plop down on the floor with a big bowl of sugar, cereal, and lunch for cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And this morning, we watched Captain N, the Game Master.
The Game Master.
Mega high!
Whoa! This was suggested by Sean Hockney via Facebook. Thank you, Sean, I think.
Thanks, Sean.
I want to say thank you, but, you know, thanks.
Yeah. So the show Captain N, the Game Master aired from 89 to 91, created by Nintendo of America Incorporated, and a Nintendo staff member and magazine editor named Randy Studdard, but he was not credited or compensated for this idea that he gave Nintendo. So shame on you.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been.
Shame on you. However, yeah, it might be better for him that he wasn't credited with this. But we'll get there.
Yes.
It's produced by Deke Entertainment and Saban Productions for season 1 only, and also Nintendo of America Incorporated, of course. Ran for 3 seasons, 34 episodes on the NBC network. For a short synopsis, teenager Kevin Keene and his dog Duke are sucked into the Videoland universe to help Princess Lana's in-team defeat the evil villainess Mother Brain.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good description for it, honestly.
You know why it's a decent description? Because I had to write it by piecemealing together bad descriptions.
That makes some sense. You should have just read the bad description, though. That would have been fun.
It was so long, though. Like, this is me.
It would be very suitable for this.
This is me condensing it down because the other one was like paragraphs long. It was,
oh my goodness,
stupid. Yeah. So who are some of the actors who played in this show?
Well, the voice of Kevin, Captain N. Keene, that is his full name, was Matt Hill. You may recognize him from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the movie, and The Next Mutation. He was Raphael. He was also Jab in Street Sharks, Rio in Ronin Warriors, and Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy. I'll let you decide which Ed that is.
Oh.
The voice of the dog, Duke, was Tom Wright. He's been in things like Cam Candy and G.I. Joe. The voice of Princess Lana was Venus Terzo, still one of the coolest names I've ever heard. She was Black Arachnia in Beast Wars and Beast Machines, Jean Grey in X-Men Evolution, and she plays Dr. Schwartz on Arrow, or did. Spoilers? No, I'm kidding. I have no idea. I don't know this character whatsoever because I don't watch Arrow. Voice of Simon Belmont was Andrew Cavadas, who was the voice of King Arthur from King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, or whatever. The thing that we watched. We watched that once.
You get it right.
Yeah. The voice of Megaland was Doug Parker. He also voiced Prince Adam from The New Adventures of He-Man and several bad guys from Street Sharks, including Spitor. And he was Pterosaur from Beast Wars and Bubbles from Dragon Ball Z. Remember the monkey?
Oh,
Bubbles?
Yeah. King Kai's monkey.
Guy. Yeah. Kid Icarus was voiced by Alessandro Giuliani, who was Night Scream from Beast Machines, Gambit from X-Men Evolution, L from Death Note, and played Lieutenant Gaeta from the remake of Battlestar Galactica. He was really awesome, and that's a great show. You should watch it. Voice of Mother Brain was Levi Stubbs. Yes, Mother Brain was voiced by a man. He was also the voice of Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, which is pretty cool, and you can definitely hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense now, huh?
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The voice of King Hippo was Gary Chalk. He was He-Man from The New Adventures of He-Man, Spike from Street Sharks, Optimus Primal from Beast Wars and Beast Machines, Dr. Robotnik from Sonic Underground, and in Transformers Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, he voices Optimus Prime. The Eggplant Wizard was Michael Donovan, who voices Conan from Conan the Adventurer, Billy Lee from Double Dragon, Sabretooth and X-Men Evolution, and Count Dooku from Lego Star Wars. And then finally, the narrator was Doc Harris, who is also the narrator of Dragon Ball Z. Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
that guy. That's
that
him.
Makes sense too. Yeah, I could totally hear these voices as you say them.
Last time on Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom. Goku was making a spirit bomb for 11 episodes. Frieza kills Krillin and Yamcha.
Yamcha dies.
And Chaozu.
Yamcha dies.
And Tien
every
doesn't really
episode.
matter.
Tien's actually really cool in Super. Yamcha still sucks, though.
Yeah, Yamcha just sucks regardless because it's Yamcha.
Womp womp.
Womp, womp, womp. Vegeta looks mad.
That's the subtitle to all Dragon Ball properties.
I think I have a career in Dragon Ball, the next one that they do. I'm going to be the new narrator.
So one question I had, and it seems like a harsh oversight, is that so it's called Captain N the Game Master, but the guy's name is Kevin. It seems like it would have been an easy win just to name him like Nick or something, like just to tie it in with the letter.
Yeah. Well, the N stands for Nintendo.
I know what it stands for, but I just mean like
he's Captain Nintendo.
Because, and I'll go over this in a second, but this guy has no reason to be Game Master at all.
No, not at all.
But okay, so for now though, here's a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Captain N cereal. So although nearly every major Nintendo franchise at the time was represented at some point or another in the show, the Super Mario games were noticeably absent since the Super Mario Bros. Super Show was airing around the same time, which of course features the characters and world of the Mario games. So because there was another show, well, quote unquote, competing show, they couldn't really include Mario in any of this stuff because that would have been an obvious choice. So they left them out, right?
But they kept in like as many sound effects as they could from the, like, it's just nothing but coin noises and mushroom noises.
They even
all
had
kinds
like
of stuff.
piranha plants, but it didn't look like the piranha plants. It was just like these vicious Venus flytrap looking flowers that were inside pipes that you knew what they were supposed to be, but they couldn't quite use the image. The Captain N comic book, I was talking to you about this earlier today off air.
Yeah.
Captain N comic book was published by Valiant Comics as part of the Nintendo Comic System in 1990. Despite being based on the television cartoon of the same name, it was actually quite different from the show with a more serious tone than the cartoon. It excluded all the third-party characters, Simon Belmont, Mega Man, Dr. Wright, the Count, and Dr. Wily, but added in Samus Aran, who never appeared in the cartoon. The Samus Aran, of course, from Metroid.
Yeah.
And in the comic, she falls in love with Kevin and becomes Lana's rival for his affection.
Samus could do way better.
Yeah, because this kid, he's a teenager. Like, this guy's like 15 or something. This is like,
it's
kind of
weird
on many levels.
If that. He might be even younger than that.
Maybe. It's some weird power fantasy, this whole thing. I don't know. Some weird power glove fantasy.
Oh, yeah. You can't do that on Craigslist personals anymore because they took it down. But that used to be a thing.
Lastly, I mean, there was some other stuff, but this was the one I found most interesting, of course, and you'll know why in a second. Two of the voice actors both went on to appear in Friday the 13th films. Gary Chalk, who was King Hippo, appeared in Freddy vs. Jason, and Jonathan Potts appeared in Jason X in 2001. So I just thought that was a cool little tidbit that some of these people went on to things that I actually enjoyed.
I'm taking it that you weren't a big fan. Huh?
You know what? Like, it had me a little bit sometimes, but then it lost me in so many other ways.
So, I mean, well, then on that note, did you watch this back in the day?
Yeah, I do remember watching it. And at the time, I think I was just too naive to know all that it was missing or all that it was like not doing justice to. So I think I appreciated it more when I didn't know that much about Nintendo properties in general.
Yeah, I watched a little bit, but I didn't remember a whole bunch except for Mother Brain. I do remember that voice, and I remember the design after I saw it again, but I forgot how creepy it is. Ugh.
It is weird. It is so weird.
Who thought that was a good idea, man?
You know what? I thought that was kind of funny that they designed Mother Brain like that, but also like just a complete joke and disrespectful to the actual character and the series.
Well, all of the characters are nothing like their video game counterparts. None of them.
Well, I would say that except for maybe Kid Icarus in just because he wasn't as bad as the rest of them were.
As bad, but he still wasn't nearly as good as the games.
Right.
Not even close.
So I guess let's just go ahead and jump into the episodes we watched for today's show. The very first episode, highest rated episode, and finally a random chosen episode. Order may vary depending on how these episodes fall chronologically, but of course we have to start with the very first episode, which is Kevin in Videoland, Season 1, Episode 1. In this episode, Kevin, Keene, and his dog Duke have been transported to Videoland and asked to help defeat Mother Brain. After Princess Lana is kidnapped, Kevin and his video game companions, Megaman, Kid Icarus, and Simon Belmont, have to work together to save her, or else Mother Brain just might be able to take over Videoland and rule forever.
Can we just briefly touch on the characters that we've got here?
Please, I was hoping you would say that. Yes.
Yeah, we've discussed that Kevin's a teenager. He gets sucked in from the real world into his television as he's playing Super Punch-Out, but that brings him to Videoland. But Kevin's like, oh, they went as typical 90s as they could. Like when he gets sucked in, he's like, whoa! And that was the perfect 90s whoa, by the way, that I just did. So
it's almost like you grew up in the 90s.
Princess Lana has nothing to do with the video games, so she's a princess in distress, so who cares?
Well, she's a default cute princess who is wearing like a tight dress and stuff.
And hugs all over Kevin
and kisses
without really even knowing him.
Yeah, like this is a kid. Come on, have some respect. I mean, I don't know how old she's supposed to be. I assume around the same age just to, help a little bit, but I don't know.
Didn't look like it. So like, real quick, can you describe Simon Belmont for me?
Okay, so Simon Belmont, the hero of Castlevania, or part of the Belmont family who are the heroes of Castlevania, vampire slayers, monster hunters, etc. In this, he is an egotistical, just really stuck up, cowardly guy who is just fighting for Princess Lana's affection. Which, again, if this makes her the same age or around the same age as Kevin, means she's a teenager and Simon is clearly not. So he's an older man. This whole thing is just messed up. But Simon is not at all what you would expect him to be from especially not after watching, Trevor Belmont in the Castlevania series that we did.
Yeah, not even close. It's weird, because Simon Belmont's supposed to be kind of badass, and this dude's just like you said, he's like an adventurer, like obsessed with his own looks and things like that. Just really, really shallow and just awful.
But he does have a whip at least, so there's that.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help. This makes it worse because we want the other Simon.
So, and Kid Icarus is like the only, like he's the voice of he's got a kid voicing him, so he sounds adorable. But at the end of like most of his sentences or most of just the words he says, it's like, what is it, like Icus or something?
He adds Icus to the end of everything he says. Like so if I were to repeat that sentence again, he adds Icus to everything he says Icus.
Yeah, exactly. It's like King Hippocus or King Hippoicus or something like that. Like Mother Brainicus.
Like, we gotta get out of here before we're Kildicus.
Yeah, it's just all that. And that in small doses, that's okay, but it's literally every sentence he says just to throw it in there.
I was confused too. It's like, Pitt was never, well, okay, his real name's supposed to be Pitt, but so they just refer to him as Kid Icarus. But since that's the name of the game, but I don't know, man. It's just it's weird, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. He was the least obnoxious character, and I still didn't like it. Well, his voice cracked all the time too, and that got on my nerves. They drew him like a cherub, but not chubby, like just a tiny, like he looks like a toddler with wings.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
And very rosy cheeks.
But then the character I like least of all,
the best one,
which should have been the best character, was Mega Man. And what they did to Mega Man is just a real shame. And legend has it, just what I read up on it is the reason, because Mega Man is known to be the blue bomber is what his like nickname is, but he's a blue character just in general. But in this, he's green. And what I heard or what I read was that it's possibly because of the creator, the way that he was playing it on a TV that had like the color scheme like off a little bit. No. So it made him green on the TV.
So he didn't even realize that it was the wrong color.
I guess
when
not.
He made it for the show.
Exactly. And for some reason, he has a weird like green visor over his face too. Like not even a visor. It's just like, yeah. And his voice, like instead of his voice, instead of like powering up with those like e-packs or whatever, it sounds like he's been powering up with packs of cigarettes for the past like 60 years. Because he's
he
like,
talks like this.
I'm Mega Man, Mega High, Mega whatever, Mega everything.
They don't even give him the arm cannon.
Nope.
That he's just famously has. I mean, that's part of his look. He doesn't even have it. And he is about knee high to a human. Like everybody from the Mega Man kind of world is like, I don't know, halfling size. I don't understand why they did that.
And they did bring Dr. Light into this, but they named him Dr. Wright, like WRIGHT for some reason.
They have the rights to these things. It's Nintendo that made this. So why? I don't understand why they did this.
Why? There's a lot of change. I mean, Dr. Wily was still Dr. Wily. Like he was probably the only character in that whole Mega Man verse that they brought into it that was even close to the actual character.
Yeah, he wasn't that far off, except he was just so tiny.
Well, I mean, it was just a tiny world, I guess. And they even gave Dr. Light like elf ears. So I guess they were just supposed to be like weird, a different species or something. I don't know.
Oh, who knows? You got Mother Brain, who I don't even know how to describe that.
Mother Brain is a diva, like
yes.
And she's so almost like Simon Belmont. She's obsessed with her beauty and stuff, which is so strange because she's literally just a giant brain in a jar. So it's like that doesn't even like
with
beauty
a
doesn't even
face.
Yeah, beauty doesn't even seem
makeup.
like it would come into play at all. So I don't get that whole concept. But it was an interesting character that they made her just not what you would expect Mother Brain to be at all. But I guess the real Mother Brain would have been too terrifying for a children's show. So they're just like, let's make it fun. And they tried to.
Yes. But if fun is how you describe it, I mean, maybe.
I did appreciate the voice acting for Mother Brain.
The voice acting was fun. I'll give him that. The design, I hated it. It's going to give me nightmares. So Mother Brain has two henchmen. One is King Hippo from Punch-Out. But it's not the King Hippo you remember. Maybe the color was still off when he played that one. King Hippo in this is blue and has these like saucer-sized giant nipples for some reason. It's so creepy.
The villain character that was interesting that I did like was the Eggplant Wizard.
Eggplant Wizard.
Yeah, he's from the Kid Icarus universe, but I think that's probably the most faithful to the actual character, even though, it was just like pixels at the time that they were referring it. I liked the design that they used for him. And even the voice kind of matched what you would assume a walking, talking eggplant would sound like.
I did like too, every time he got like hurt or something or squished, like just a bunch of vegetables would shoot out, like a bunch of random ones.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny.
His damage meter was just like vegetables shooting out of him.
Just vegetables shooting everywhere.
And as an eggplant wizard, like it was like most of his spells revolved around vegetables, except for in this episode, for some reason, he trapped Kevin inside of a banana peel, which is not a vegetable. So maybe he has control of some fruits, most vegetables.
But that just tells you like how effective Kevin is that he gets stopped by a banana.
It was a big banana.
It was a big banana, but he still he lost to being put inside of a banana peel.
So in the episode that we watched, what are some of the highlights for you?
Man, there's no highlights of this.
What are some of the dumbest parts for you?
Well, the whole thing was stupid. Like the basic thing is like the princess gets kidnapped and they need to go save her, and they're like, there's warp points, and Kevin's just like, oh, I know this game, I've played this before, this warp point's here. I'm like, those warp points don't exist in any of those games, you're just making crap up for the cartoon. So I don't care what you have to say, Kevin. You've never played this, you poser. Go home and go play your Sega Genesis. I don't trust you.
Because in this Videoland, there's this Palace of Power as a central point, and that's not part of any video game, so there's no way he would have any familiarity with it. And a big problem I had so Kevin he uses the Zapper, the Nintendo Zapper gun, the orange one, like the Duck Hunt gun. And except I think it's red in this, but it doesn't matter. And he also has a Nintendo pad on his belt that he uses. But a big problem I had was like he pushes pause a lot, but it's the select button he's pushing.
Right.
So the people who made this show clearly had never played a Nintendo game, it seems like.
No. I don't understand. Like, I like the idea of the Nintendo controller and it's acting like a utility belt. It can do different things.
Right.
That's fine. That's kind of cool. But it makes the things that it can do, it's not consistent at all. Like sometimes he can teleport a short distance, or he can pause the time of just one object, or he can pause all of time in general, or he can get super speed, or he can turn into a little ball of light that just kind of floats across the floor.
He can fly sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's nothing consistent about it. There's no rules to this, and I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Joseph,
it really seems like... Okay, so the one limitation the stopping time has is it's limited, but still it seems like he would use it more often. Like, if you're ever in a fight, just pause it, run around the person and punch him in the back or something.
You could use that to solve every single situation. You know, like it's a Mary. You could just, you know what I'm saying. Oh God, I'm dying right now.
Let's wrap this first episode up and say that at the end of it, Kevin, of course, saves the princess. They end up saving the princess, and then he's about to leave. He's just like, all right, well, that was fun. I'm out. Like, I got stuff to do. And then it's like, this is kind of a testament to the times, I guess. I don't know where slacking was. It was encouraged because it's like, okay, well, I'm going back home. And then you hear Kevin's mom on the other side of the portal, like, Kevin, like, you know, you need to do your chores. And are you playing with that foolish game again? You have homework and take out the trash. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay instead. So time is passing normally from where he is and to where he in Videoland. So that means if Kevin's gone for this long, his mom's got to think he's just been kidnapped or has just disappeared.
Right.
Because he is not going back home. And he's just like, forget my responsibilities. I'd rather be in this video game world and fight a war against Mother Brain.
Yeah, but Joseph, the big thing that you're forgetting is chores are bogus, man. And like, we got so many video games to play and, you know, forget school and homework.
He even says at the end, he's like, let's face it, I'm hooked. Like, you're hooked on the video game. Like, they were really trying to encourage you to get hooked on Nintendo here.
That was dumb. The only highlight of this is we saw Donkey Kong taking a bath.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny.
Was the best part of this whole thing. It's not like, you know, this is old Donkey Kong, not from Donkey Kong Country.
Right. This Donkey Kong doesn't speak. This Donkey Kong is just a raging like monster, an angry kaiju monster.
And he's like
huge.
The size of a building compared to the others.
Yeah, so. He's King Kong basically, like Donkey Kong is supposed to be. But yeah, so moving on to the second episode we watched for today's show, it was Mega Trouble for Megaland, season 1, episode 5. And this was the highest rated. And oh man, this episode made me mad. The in-team struggles struggles to find weapons with enough power to defeat the magic of the sacred treasures.
Yeah, why was this the highest rated episode? There's no reason. This is awful.
Here, I think it could have been if you had never played a Mega Man game, but you had heard about Mega Man games, and you're like, this sounds kind of like they've talked about in the Mega Man games. It tries to do that and fails so much. Because as a Mega Man,
got like all these knockoff versions of Mega Man characters, like all the bad guys that you want to see, like, you know, like, I don't know, like Rockman or not Rockman, because he's Mega Man, but like, you know, like Cut Man and things like that. Like here they have Cuts Man.
It's not hold on. It's not even Cuts Man. They keep saying it like Cutsman. It's like
Cutsman.
You know.
Yes.
Almost like it's Fred Kutzman or something. Like that's his last name.
So it's as bad as you could imagine. It's still like a robot-y guy with scissors on his head, but it looks nothing like Cutman, like you're used to. And
he's not
because
orange.
Nothing in this world looks like it should. Because even though they have the money, even though they own the properties, they're just like, you know what? Just do whatever. We don't care. Like. Doesn't matter.
And they keep trying to throw in like cultural references. Like there's this one time Kevin's talking about they're going through. This is at the beginning where they're stuck in like a time warp or something, or the between dimensions. And Kevin's like, it's like a nightmare on Mother Brain Street. Like obviously trying to knock off Nightmare on Elm Street, but in such a dumb way because
I didn't even catch it.
They're literally just throwing Mother Brain into that instead of Elm, which sounds nothing like. It's forced culture references. And if it's supposed to be a kid's show, like kids shouldn't even know about this really. Like they shouldn't know about Freddy.
Maybe that was one for the parents that they're like, you know, we got to throw them a bone because they want to rake their own eyes out at this point. If they're watching this with their children, like they'll never like, here's the thing. If I was a parent that had never played a Nintendo game, you know, I didn't know the wonders of Nintendo and how great their games are. And I happen to see this first, I would have been like, I'm never touching a Nintendo game. And Like, this is going to make my kid stupid. So, like, my kid's not playing this. Like, there's no way this had the effect they wanted to and got people more into their games.
Come on, Billy, you've got to go fight the Cutsman. Go fight Mr. Cutsman.
Yeah, go fight the Cutsman. He sounds like it just reminds me of, like, you know, maybe like a guy from the Revolutionary War. He put scissors on the end of his his like gun instead of a bayonet, and he was the Cutsman.
Yeah,
and he's very prim and proper.
Cutsman first class. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They even, God, like I don't know if you felt this way. I felt this way. I felt that through this episode, they didn't know the writers didn't know what they wanted to do. So they were just kind of stalling to take up enough time to have a full episode. So like they get through this part and I'll give them credit. This is video game like, but they get to this part and then this monster knocks them off of this building thing they climbed and they have to start over again. And Mega Man's like, oh, now we got 2 lives left. And I'm like, oh my, they got to do this all again? Come on.
Yeah. Oh man. And so like they're fighting through the bosses or supposedly fighting through the bosses just like in the Mega Man games. But I mean, this is kind of a side thing, but they're not even in the right order. Like you shouldn't ever fight Cutsman first, but whatever, or Cutman first. So, but anyway, but what happens is like they fight him, they go to fight him first, but on the way there, they fight all the other robot masters and they kills them in one shot. Like they all come out and as just like random enemies in the level and he shoots them all. And then after they beat Cutsman, they're like, all right, now we have to go beat the others. But because the episode can only be so long, they're like, it just skips all of that. And then it's like, okay, now we're here to Dr. Wily.
Right. And of course, Mega Man still does not have the arm cannon.
No.
He has a little bitty laser zapper on his wrist, and that's it.
And he's not absorbing the Robot Master's powers either. Like, there's no reason for any of this to happen except to get to Dr. Wily. So Mother Brain has gotten these 3 treasures after some stupid, like, Olympics thing that she did in the previous episode. And for some reason, she gave them to Dr. Wily to use. When they get to him, he revives all the other robots with the 3 treasures. Oh, on the side, also, Simon and Kid Icarus are going to fight Medusa so that they can get these other 3 treasures, which are the mirror shield, the fire bow, and what was the other one?
It doesn't even matter, man. I didn't even write it down because I was just like, I don't even care at this point.
Yeah. But there were 3.
Of course, Simon is an idiot and looks Medusa right in the eye because like they have their eyes closed, but Medusa starts using this like a seducing kind of voice. Not even seducing. She makes herself sound like a normal woman. So of course Simon's like, well, I'll look at you and turns to stone because she's like, I'm so beautiful. Simon Belmont's an idiot in this world.
Yeah. He's so easily tricked into believing just by, even though he knows he's in Medusa's lair, and it's not like she has any power of persuasion. He's just so dumb and so useless that he falls for it instantly. So Kid Icarus has to come back with the mirror shield and make her turn herself to stone, which is cool. And then that frees everybody who was turned to stone in her palace, including Simon.
Yeah, and honestly, I would have just left him. I mean, if it was me, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just been like, well, sorry, I couldn't save him. Just lie to everybody. No one would really miss him that much.
He never helps. All he does is like, he causes more problems for the rest of the team most of the time. Like he's never, I mean, through all the episodes we watched, he never did anything that helped anybody else.
Nope.
Like usually he uses his whip and uses it like incorrectly, like pulls something down on himself or he gets stuck on something. He's a moron. He's just, oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Of course, in this episode, Kevin has to say game over. Joseph, like you can't see it, but the veins in my head and neck are sticking out right now. So I look like that kid from that meme that's trying to hold in a fart.
And towards the end of this one, when they're fighting Dr. Wily, so he's revived all the robot masters, and then Kid Icarus comes in and tries to shoot his arrow at the 3 treasures that have brought them back to life, and he misses, but then it starts bouncing off the walls, and the princess comes out and reflects it with her crown in just the right way to angle it back at the treasures and blow them up. And what that does is like defeat the robot masters again. And so Dr. Wily's like, I don't even need them. Like, I'm going to come out and, I'm going to get in my little cart, in my little like ship thing and run everybody over. And so Kevin's just like, oh, I know what to do. He just pauses it, goes in the ship, and like, instead of pulling Wily out of it or anything, he just like messes the controls and really makes him kind of veer off course and crash. So it's like, wow, okay,
right.
You've had this pause button the whole time, but you use it so sparingly. And it's not like you've given us any indication that you can only use it so much. It's just there's a timer on it when you use it. So I don't know. It's going back to what you said about the inconsistency of his powers.
Yeah. And real quick, can I also mention how worthless Icarus is? Because like... This is the second time. All he has is that bow and arrow. That's all he does, right?
Right.
This is the second time he shoots the arrow and misses whatever he's trying to do or causes a problem with it. So, like, you explained what happened in this one. And the one before this, they have Mother Brain dead to rights. I mean, dead to rights. He shoots an arrow. Instead of hitting her, he hits this little control switch that makes her spin around and all this lightning shoots out. And they're like, oh, it's too dangerous to attack. We'll have to come back some other time. And they have to leave. I'm like, he's causing problems too. Like, everyone in this group is a moron.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's the captain. He told them they had to run. I mean, they easily could have finished it right then and there. But then the series would have only been one episode, which probably would have been for the better. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
I take it back. Like, Duke is the only smart person in this entire team. The dog.
Oh, yeah.
The dog is the smartest character. Yeah.
So Mother Brain's treasures get destroyed. She loses her power over the palace because she was stupid to lend them out to Wily, and things go back to normal. They're not normal. Like, they're still fighting each other, but she doesn't rule the palace anymore or rule the Videoland anymore.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our third episode we watched for today's show. The last episode, fortunately, which was Return to Castlevania, Season 3, Episode 3. This was chosen by me because I was like, you know what? We did a Mega Man episode within the, Megaland adventure that we just talked about. And let's do a Simon Belmont episode because I had forgotten how annoying his character was. In this one, during the Simon Belmont Awards, the Poltergeist King says that Trevor Belmont, who is Simon Belmont's grandfather, is a coward, which makes Simon worried until him and Captain N get advice from a wizard. Honestly, that description is longer than the episode was.
Yeah, this episode was 10 minutes long. Also, that wizard, I'm pretty sure, was just a lawn gnome that could talk. I mean, he was about the size of a lawn gnome. He had the pointy hat and everything. And was probably about as effective because every spell he used kept backfiring and stuff.
The animation changed so much.
It was different in this one.
Between Season 2 and Season 3. Like, they really must have lost all budget. Because at this point, they had combined it with the Super Mario Brothers show for some 30-minute combination thing. So this was
oh, okay.
Yeah, it became just like a little add-on show instead of its own, not good show, but instead of its own show, it became an add-on to the Super Mario Brothers. I think not the Super Show, but I think the Super Mario Brothers 3 cartoon, if you remember that one.
The probably better one of all of these.
Yeah. And so it was added onto that as a 10-minute segment. And man, they jumped the street shark here. They really jumped the street shark. It was so everything about it. As much as I didn't like the first two episodes, there were things about them that I was like, okay, I see where they're going. But this one, it was so random and they just did whatever they wanted because they were like, this doesn't matter anymore. We don't even care. Yeah. And it was so obvious.
I couldn't even tell you what was really going on in this episode. Simon cried. And it was upset. They met that lawn gnome that did spells.
He was in a graveyard. Yeah.
There was a graveyard and the lawn gnome summoned skeletons they had to fight. Turns out the Poltergeist King that Simon was so upset about was actually Dracula.
No, he wasn't Dracula. He was the Count. They can't say Dracula.
Oh, the Count. I'm so sorry. Yes, he was the Count. We can't say Dracula, even though that's who it was. They did use Alucard,
right?
Who is basically a vampire version of a teen from a Capri Sun commercial. He's on the skateboard. He's got the surfer dude accent, and I hate him. I hate everything about him.
Oh, his character was. I was hoping when he rode by at first, I was like, okay, he's just a side character. It doesn't matter, and we'll never see him again. But he was a big part of this episode in such a dumb way. Alucard comes to the rescue basically of the heroes of Simon and who all is there? It's just Simon and
it's just Simon and Captain N, the game master.
So it's just Simon and Captain N. Oh yeah, and the lawn gnome, who I thought was a necromancer at first, and then he was just an old wizard, and then I couldn't really figure out what he was. Okay, and then so like Alucard comes to their rescue, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm against the Count or whatever," and he wants to help them prove that Simon's grandfather Trevor was not a coward and did not steal the relics that he had or whatever the case was that were keeping him from getting an award. They go to Dracula's lair, I think, and then it turns out that Alucard was betraying them so that he could bring them to the Count's lair, and they could trap them from there.
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be a trap. I don't know. I mean, it didn't work out. I mean, I don't know, man.
Oh man, and Alucard's power was like he would open his cape and just two random fire blasts would shoot out of the sides of it. Like they had no origin, like there was no place where they came from. They just came from his cape. That's what I mean about they didn't care. Like they're like, he needs powers. Well, just make him shoot fireballs. Fireballs are cool. And so that's what he does. He just shoots fireballs out of his cape. And his fireballs are multifunctional too, because at one point, like they're destroying things, and in another, they're opening caskets that have mummies in them. They're opening like sarcophagus. And it's like, why are you just go open it like with your hands? Why are you fireballing everything?
Because Joseph, it looks cooler. It looks rad. It looks radical.
I guess like that. His character would be the definition of what a 90s cartoon thought rad was.
Yes, exactly.
And he even said cowabunga.
Didn't he have a backwards baseball hat or something? Like, I'm pretty sure he had a hat on backwards.
He might have had a hat. I know he had sunglasses that were shaped like bats. The lenses
I'm pretty
were.
Sure he had some neon colored like shorts and stuff.
Probably.
So, or at least some very colorful ones like chartreuse.
Chartreuse. So the wizard casts some spell to try to stop them, and it starts bringing the ceiling down. It's like a cave ceiling down, and
yes,
the staff gets knocked out of the Count's hand.
The Count.
I know. And
right.
Simon comes swinging in like Tarzan to stop the Count. So they had brought some mummies to life, Alucard had, and so Kevin. Somehow, he doesn't even push his controller on his belt. He just flies up in the air. It's like if you remember the episode of The Simpsons that had Poochie in it when he was leaving, and they just like pulled the frame off, so he just floated off. And like that's kind of what it looked like. It's Kevin just kind of randomly flew up in the air without any indication of how, and he made Alucard get wrapped in mummy bandages. That's how they won that battle. They like pushed the Count and Alucard into their coffins, and I don't know, ran off.
They're like, our job's done.
Yeah. Well,
run away.
I guess they saved the Poltergeist King. Or no, the Poltergeist King just ran off himself. Like he didn't need saving.
Yeah, he left by himself. No one saved him.
He just left the tower and he's like, all right, bye guys.
He did like the whole, like, I don't know, made a rope out of bed sheets and climbed out of this castle.
Yeah, he really
just went on his way.
That's how pointless the show was. It's like they didn't even need to rescue anybody. He just saved himself. And they went in there and got trapped because they're dumb.
That's it.
And so Simon gets his award, but then at the end he's talking too much. So they are like, we need to shut his mouth or something. Like we need to shut down the mouth of Belmont or something, Kevin says. And so the wizard, like, he's like, I think this spell goes something like this. And instead of like reciting a spell like he had been the whole episode, he just like points at him and Simon gets wrapped in mummy bandages and everybody laughs. And that's the end.
Well, you say everybody laughs, but like
I think just Kevin and the old wizard laugh.
None of us were laughing. None of us. Most of us were sighing.
You know what? Like when an episode feels like an episode of a cartoon feels like it's running too long, like I'll like move my mouse or like move my gamepad to see how much time is left. And normally that's like in the middle of like a 30-minute episode or something. I'll be like, oh God, there's like only 7 minutes left, luckily. And this is only 10 minutes long, but like the first minute I was like, man, how long is this? This sucks. And
that's funny.
Yeah. And I was like, oh yes, it's only 10 minutes. Like that's the saving grace is that it was so short.
Yeah.
As bad as some of the other episodes were, this season 3 was just so bad. Like So much so that they even disconnected it from the main series as far as when they released it on DVD. They would only released it as part of like this a combo with the Super Mario 3 show, and they didn't release it as part of the actual like full complete series of Captain N.
Right. I mean, we already knew they didn't care about the show, and then they stopped caring even more. I don't know how that was even possible,
as if
but
they could.
did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, looks like it's about time we help our inner kids avoid all real-life responsibilities by warping them to Videoland to assist the N team, then see what they thought of Captain N, the Game Master.
I love video games, especially Nintendo games like Mario and Zelda and Mega Man and Donkey Kong and Castlevania, so of course this show is awesome. Wait, is it opposite day? Because this show was stupid. None of the characters were any good, and it got really boring, and Mother Brain just looks and talks like my Uncle Jerry. I can see that anytime. So I give this cartoon 1 bowl of overplayed soundbite cereal out of 5.
Let me start by saying that even though this was a show made for gamers, it was very clearly not a show made by gamers. In fact, watching this show with any prior knowledge of the Nintendo properties presented is a big mistake, and you will be extremely disappointed at how your favorite characters are portrayed. In fact, I think the only even semi-likable character was Kid Icarus. Everyone else just felt wrong, I guess. If I had to say something nice about it, it would be that the different Nintendo-related lands they visited was a really interesting idea. However, these great ideas were so marred by the bad characters and terrible story arcs that you really don't get to appreciate them. Overall, I'd give Captain N the Game Master 2 big bowls of Dr. Right, more like Dr. Wrong, cereal out of 5, and would not recommend this show to fans of video games, or even fans of good cartoons for that matter. In closing, if it took him 50 tries to reach the end of the Cutman's level, he is definitely not a quote-unquote game master. Plus, why did they choose to fight Cutman first? Even my grandma knows that the correct order to face the Mega Man Robot Masters is Bomb Man, Guts Man, Cutman, Elect Man, Iceman, then Fireman. Jeez, get with the program, Kevin!
You know, Kevin's just a total noob. That's what the problem is. They got a noob in there who doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't belong there. He's just there to cause problems and take up our time, and that's exactly what happened. So do you have any closing thoughts on the show?
Oh man, my final thoughts are really just kind of reflecting what we've said throughout. Like, as much as I wish that this show was better, I knew coming into it wasn't going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be as bad as it was. Like, man, they really didn't try. They had so much at their disposal, and they had the approval of Nintendo to use those things, but they just chose really bad art directions for it and just kind of besmirched the characters that they did use and the properties in general. So it's just a huge disappointment. And as much as I wish I could like this show, I can't. I cannot like it. I cannot recommend it. And if you think you like it, try watching it again and see what you think.
Yeah, okay, so I love the idea of this show. It's totally that idea that Wreck-It Ralph and Ready Player One achieved, but they did a lot better than this. Just, the characters are represented so bad. I don't understand how it got this bad. There's no reason it should have been this bad. It feels like Nintendo was just like, hey, use our characters, but make them nothing like our characters. So it could have been amazing in concept, using all these games and worlds and these lovable icons. Plus the gun and controller as the belt thing was honestly a cool idea, but they put zero heart, they put zero thought into this whole thing. I'm definitely not going to watch anymore, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I would be interested in seeing like a DreamWorks like animated style movie of this, so long as they treat the characters as they should. I think that could be a big hit. Like if, you know, Kid Icarus looked like they used Pit basically, and Pit is actually good at what he does, and Mega Man is Mega Man. And you get Simon Belmont, and he is like a hard as nails adventurer, like more, you know, if you want to add some comedy to it, go that Drax the Destroyer route. Like he's kind of a big goon with a heart of gold, but he's very strong and knows how to fight. He's a warrior. Go that route. That makes way more sense than whatever this slop was. So yeah, never something like this again, please.
Yeah, you're right though. It could have been good. They had all the pieces there, but they decided to put this puzzle together completely wrong and like bring in pieces from other puzzles that don't even fit. And it just, it just doesn't feel right. And if you're fans of any of these games, then it really it's like a punch to the gut.
Yeah, it makes you, it sours the idea of Nintendo when you watch it.
And I think you made it. And I think you made a good point when you said there was just no heart to it, because that's absolutely true. It was just a cash grab, and a poor one at that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it didn't do them much favors. So no point in doing a cash grab if you're not going to put effort into it.
Yeah, so thanks, Sean, for letting us watch this again. I mean, it would have happened eventually, and we were excited to jump back into it. I remember we were talking about it before we watched it. We're like, yeah, this is going to be fun. It was it was fun, but only because we were able to look at it with adult eyes and be like, man, what were they thinking?
Exactly.
But again, it could be good if they gave it the right treatment.
I agree with that.
Well, listeners, looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. And next week, we'll be watching
We Bear Bears, suggested by Nickel Force via YouTube, who left us the awesome review that I read last week. So we said, hey, you know, maybe we'll bump your request up. And then he emailed us and he's like, are you serious? And then we're like, yeah, we're serious. So we did it.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
We live up to our promises.
We did. We lived up to it. And now you are very happy with us. And don't ever think otherwise.
We Bear Bears? Is that what it is?
We Bear Bears.
We Bear Bears. Interesting. I've heard of it, I think, but I've never seen it. What about you?
You'll find out next week.
Oh, mystery.
Dun, dun. Cliffhanger.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth,
a place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.